Alejandra and I are going to talk about how corporal punishment must not be considered a method of discipline in our society anymore. But before we begin with it, I would like to ask you what would you do in the following situation. Imagine that you have a 3-year-old baby who is a little bit spoiled. You have been walking for San Jose downtown for almost 2 hours, and now it is time to get on the bus. When you finally arrive to the bus stop, your child tells you that he wants an ice cream now. However, you get on the bus because you are really tired and you know that he's not hungry at all. The child throws a fit in the middle of the bus. He cries, screams, and hits you. Everybody looks at you because you cannot control your child. And it seems that he's suffering a lot because you didn't want to buy him an ice cream. How would you react in that situation? A, grab and slap the child to show him that he cannot defy your authority. B, take away his favorite toy to punish him. Or C, analyze the situation and talk to your child because you want him to understand that this is not the best way to behave. I hope you didn't choose A or B because that would make worse the situation. We are going to convince you why C is the best option. Alejandra is going to give you some background information.
Okay, thank you. Just to give you some background about this issue, according to an article written by an international organization called Stop Hitting and our national foundation, Panamor, Costa Rica signed a law that prohibits the use of corporal punishment in schools in 2008. Up to now, 112 countries around the world have prohibited the use of corporal punishment in their education systems. But what is considered an aggression? The only fact that somebody is maltreating you emotionally or physically is considered mistreatment. So, for example, it can go when a professor or a teacher or a parent does not take care of what is affecting the child, or up to the point that they maltreat him directly. Now Yendry is going to talk about our first argument.
We are against corporal punishment
Sorry. I forgot to say our claim. Because of the negative aspects that corporal punishment can provoke in children, we are totally against this implementation, considering that positive discipline is the best solution for it. Now, Yendry is going to talk about our first argument.
Okay, as I was saying, we are against corporal punishment because it brings a lot of negative psychological consequences in children's lives. According to Panamor, in the guideline that Alejandra mentioned before, children who are exposed to physical violence are more likely to suffer from depression, low self-esteem, negative adaptation, and bad relationships. They also suffer from incomprehension, loneliness, and sadness. In the book Making an Impact, which was written by Marianne Hester, Chris Person, and Nicola Herwin, they said that those children tend to be more aggressive, insecure, and confused. They also suffer from nightmares, bedwetting, and difficulties at school. Alejandra is going to mention our second reason.
Okay, our second argument is related to negative physical consequences. So let's look at this child. And the most common mistreat are the following ones. Maybe you're familiar to this. When they spank, when our parents or somebody else spank you with a belt, or spank you with your hands, or even pinch you. So, according to an article written by Asociación de Pediatría Costarricense, in 2000, around 27,519 children were victims of violent accidents. And from this, 69% occurred in their homes. What does it mean? Well, that most of the violence in Costa Rica is happening in our homes. Imagine that, not in the streets, in our homes. So some of the negative physical consequences are malnutrition, poor growth, poor sleeping habits, and also physical damages in their brains or other internal organs. So all these aspects can lead to the bad development of the child. For example, in the school they won't pay attention. It will be very hard for them to pay attention. Also, their fine moral skill will be deficient. They will have problems with having good relationships with their classmates. So the only fact that somebody maltreats you physically, it's a big argument to be against corporal punishment. Now, Yendry is going to talk about our third argument.
Well, even though some people use corporal punishment in order to discipline their children, we know that this method is not effective at all. Save the Children and Panamore show a study made by the National University in 2003, where many Costa Rican families said that they use corporal punishment because they don't know how to control their children, or they don't know other methods in order to discipline their children, right? 65.3% of these families make use of physical violence, and 74.2% use psychological violence. Save the Children created a method which is based on 4 main principles. In these 4 main principles. And they say that you have to establish what you want to teach to your children. For example, if you want them to be more respectful and comprehensive, the use of corporal punishment will be a contradiction to what you are teaching. In addition, you have to create a comfortable atmosphere where your child learns what are his responsibilities and his duties. Then you have to understand how your children think and feel in order to have a better relationship with them during the process. And finally, find the best way to resolve the problem using the problem-solving method. Alejandra, what could be some other counter-arguments against our position?
Okay, you might be thinking about some counter-arguments such as, when there is no option, well, the child is very spoiled, we can use corporal punishment, and the answer is no. Because violence generates more violence. And analyze, don't you think that the most mature way to eliminate the child's misbehavior is by talking to him, making him analyze the situation? Remember that children are like sponges. If you do this, they will do this. So if you spank them, they will spank in the future. So now there is another counter-argument that Yendry is going to talk about.
Another possible counter-argument is when people say, I was raised in that way and it works. This is the only way I know. As we have said during our speech, this is not true. And maybe if you want to cause fear or to teach your children to obtain things immediately, maybe this practice can help, right? But in a long-term period, this causes physical and psychological consequences in children's lives. Our conclusion?
Okay, in order to conclude, as we have seen, corporal punishment has many negative consequences in terms of physical and emotional fields. So, as you can see, we are totally against it, and we proposed as a solution the implementation of positive discipline. And also, if you're I don't know, if you're a teacher, if you're a mother, a father, or an uncle, an aunt, you might think before spanking a child or maltreating him, and analyze what is the best way to solve his or her misbehavior. Thank you.